arrivals and departures and things like that.
Esos son los que van a pescar.
The most common question that they are asked is, what is your job like and do you like it? They say it can be a little slower, a little dull on slow days like today, for example. It's a good example of that. No shipping activity until this afternoon. But then they say when there's a lot of shipping activities, a lot of fun, talk to the captains of those freighters and watch them go underneath you. In other words, they're saying like any other job, theirs has its ups and downs.
I got your joke.
No, I'm glad you did.
As you go underneath the area, lift bridge, everyone on the outside areas, you may wish to cover your ears.
Oh, it's a sheriff.
It's
a sheriff.
Again, single long blast followed by two short blasts, to which the bridge is going to reply to, and their horn is a little louder than ours, so you might want to cover your
Wow,
ears.
son sheriff.
Fun fact, that is the exact same type of horn heard at the University of Minnesota Hockey Arena down in the Twin Cities. What you just heard is referred to as the Master Salute. Sometimes it's called the Captain Salute. It is heard pretty commonly on the Great Lakes. Ships will signal that salute to each other.
Tal vez lo llevan para allá, a ver
And
qué hay
most
allá.
freighters will do so when they go through and under bridges like this one. It's not required, but most of them do it. Basically, our captain
Oh,
just
sí,
said,
para allá
"Thank you
vamos
for going up
ahorita."
and allowing us to re-enter the harbor."
Entonces para este
Bridge
lado
responded
ahora.
by saying, "You're welcome, we didn't have a choice."
De ahí salimos. Ahorita vamos a ir para
They do
aquel
have a
lado.
choice, actually. For small boats like us, they do not have to go up, but they do so every
¿Y
half
cómo
hour.
maneja el señor ahí? Con sus pies.
So your job is just to talk for like 2 hours?
Yeah. All in all, it ain't that bad.
Ahorita vamos a ir a ver para allá. Es otra vista. Porque venimos de allá. Vamos para allá. Cheese. Wow, nice one. Beautiful. Jump. Jump, Glenda. Jump, jump, jump. Ahí vamos a ir ahorita.
The blue and green building off to our right is the Great Lakes Aquarium.
Ahí vamos.
Built in the year 2000, it was North America's only complete freshwater aquarium when it was constructed.
Se
It
mira
didn't
todo
have
así.
saltwater exhibits or anything like that. They have expanded since then, however. They now do have saltwater exhibits. Most of the freshwater tanks have animals that live in and around the Great Lakes, though. They do have some more exotic tanks, though, including piranhas, an electric eel, more Amazonian ships that come in and out, and restaurant vegetables.
Eso es lo de atrás. Aquí ya no hay aire. Para allá adentro sí hay mucho aire. Y aquí nos salimos como a la orilla.
That was another little bit of an honorary salute to the pilot house over to our right. At the end of that scrapyard, you can see the pilot house of the former vessel Irvin L. Clymer. That was an old steamship that was active on the Great Lakes for a while. It was built in 1917. It was scrapped in 1994. Pilot house actually just got a fresh layer of paint on her deck, so she looks a lot nicer than she used to. At the very top of the hill off to our right, you might be able to see the top of Enger Tower. Spelled E-N-G-E-R. Enger Tower is named after Bert Enger, who was a wealthy businessman who lived here in the city. He had purchased the top section of that hill so people could get an unobstructed view of the lake and the harbor. When he had died, he put in his will that he wanted $50,000 of his savings to go into that land, and they used that to build a 6-story high stone tower that's up there today. I would definitely recommend going up to Enger Tower if you've never been up there before. Top of that tower gives you a 35-mile wide view of the lake and the harbor, like I mentioned earlier, as well as the surrounding forest of hills. Beautiful place to watch sunrise, sunset, moonrise, ships coming and going, things like that. Being up there several times myself, I can definitely attest that the views up there truly are superior.
Lake Superior. Lago
Except during
Superior.
kind of more dreary days where it's a little foggier out, then those views are a little more eerie.
Me van tomando su café porque está muy frío. Uy, que era Popeye. Ay, Popeye.
Either way, I'm paid to sell them, so I don't care if you like it or not. No, I got it. Huh? No, I got it.
Ahorita vamos a ir por allá, ve. Todavía nos falta como media hora más para andar aquí. Voy a grabar más a rato cuando esté. Son volcanes de piedras los que sacan de. Aquí donde llega el tren. Están los volcanes de.
This terminal on our right is the Riverland Agricultural Corporation's grain terminal. Locally referred to as Duluth Storage, this is one of North America's more modern and efficient grain terminals. It can load a freighter with about 20,000 tons of grain in approximately 14 hours. Able to do so utilizing the 5 miles of conveyor belts that connect the whole facility together. Ships go over to the right side of the terminal where the 2 grain conveyor loaders are. That's how they get the grain into the freighters. Up to 8 different types of grain are brought to this terminal via train from the Dakotas and western Minnesota. The 2 most common types that we send out of this harbor are hard red spring wheat and durum wheat, which are used to make breads and pastas. Almost all the grain shipped out from this particular terminal ends up over in Europe.
Dice que toda esta piedras y todo lo que sacan aquí se lo llevan en tren para las Dakotas y después va a llegar hasta Europa, dice. Aquí hacen de todo, llevan piedras, arena, de toda clase. Y ahí las echan y luego llevan los camiones a llenar allá. El tren. Y aquí es donde la hacen. Todos están esos volcanes ahí. Y vamos a ver por allá más que hay. Aquí se ve un volcán grandísimo de arena. Vamos a ver qué más hay por allá.
Ascon breaks up just about anything metallic, including, cars, trucks, trains, stuff like that. They do occasionally get their hands on freighters, which I would recommend you get your cameras out for this next freighter that we're about to go past.
Recycling de.
Here on our right, you can see this old white ship. This is the old J.B. Ford. J.B. Ford is currently the oldest intact freighter on the Great Lakes. This vessel was launched on December 12th of 1903. She was launched 9 years before the Titanic sank. At 440 feet long, the J.B. Ford was an active cement carrier on the Great Lakes until June of 1985, when she was retired and converted into a storage vessel for the Lafarge Cement Terminal, which is over in this harbor. There she remained until 2015, until Ascom purchased her. For the last 5 years, the Ford has been sitting here waiting for its inevitable fate to be scrapped. Taking pictures of the Ford while she's here. She won't be here forever.
Dice que está listo para deshacerlo ahí, lo van a.
Then we got turbine tower components over here on our right, including fan blades and tower sections.
Titanic,
These come in by freighter from international locations such as Brazil, Spain, and Turkey. All part of international trade. These ones are going to end up further out west over in Montana, Wyoming. Some of them might end up down in Oklahoma as well.
Se lo llevan para los otros lugares, dice. Y aquí está bonito.
And you can see off to our right there is another duller brownish green freighter sitting over here. That is the international salty called Marsgrat.
Mm.
Salties are vessels that come from the ocean.
That's
They make up about
a la
10%
de
of our shipping
aviones.
industry. Most of them come in loaded up with turbine components like this one. Built in 2011, this is a 465-foot long freighter. Just got here a couple hours ago. She'll spend the next few days here unloading turbine components. Salties like this one very rarely come into the harbor. They make up 10% of our shipping industry, but mostly we see a pretty decent set of freighters that come in. This one has only been here once before, as far as I can tell. Last time it was here was April of 2017. This yellow tech crane here to our right marks the end of a pipeline that runs from the Husky fuel plant over in Superior, Wisconsin.
Mm.
The pipeline ends there, feeds into some hoses, and they use the crane to get those hoses onto the decks of the ships. This is basically the gas station for these freighters.
Mm.
Now, the Husky fuel plant can store 560,000 gallons of fuel and can load a freighter with anywhere between 50,000 to 80,000 gallons in just under 2 hours, which translates to roughly 9 gallons every second. Freighters on the Great Lakes burn a lot of fuel. I do not know how much fuel salties burn. Their fuel mechanics and workings are a little differently than work a little different than Lakers, which are vessels that stay on the Great Lakes their entire lives. Lakers, though, can burn anywhere between 25 to 40 gallons per mile. Fuel efficient than trains and 60 times more fuel efficient than semi-trucks.
Allá va una lancha echando puestas con esto.
For 35 boats in total.
Mhm.
From right to left, these two tugs are named Arkansas and North Carolina.
Oh.
Their jobs are to move salties around the harbor. They assisted the Marsgrat in this morning. They're very good at what they do. Each one possesses a 1,250 horsepower engine
Woo.
and 13 feet of hull under the water surface, which gives them combined power, stability, and leverage needed to move big freighters. Oftentimes you need 2 tugboats to move a boat. Sometimes you only need 1. They're very expensive to send out. Each one costs $1,500 a tow. Not only did they assist the Marsgrat in, they also assisted the Federal Biscay, which is
Ese
the
es
largest freighter
el
right here in
puente que
front
lo
of us.
lleva a Wisconsin.
This is another salty.
Ajá, lo hicieron ahí en medio del lago.
Built in 2015, the Biscay measures in at 656 feet long and is registered out of the port of Majuro in the Marshall Islands over in the Pacific. However, this vessel is actually owned and operated by the FedNav Group, which is stationed out of Montreal, Canada.
Mm. Está prendido.
Salties like the Biscay and the Marsgrat, they often have. Federal Biscay here has been unloading and powdered cement at CRHUS. Powdered cement comes in by freighter every now and again here in this.
Tan grande y cómo no se hunde, ¿no?
Powdered cement loading into ship from Mississauga, Ontario. Once the Biscay is done loading up the powdered cement, she's actually going to go to Riverland Ag back at the beginning of the harbor to run home grain.
Está bonito el Freeway 2 que lo lleva de aquí, lo cruza de Minnesota para Wisconsin. De aquí es Minnesota y después de aquí es Wisconsin. Pasa todo ahí. Pasa todo. Ahora van a los carros ahí arriba. ¿Cómo hicieron estos puentes aquí?
This bridge that we're going past, you to right, is the old Interstate Bridge. This was built in 1887. When it was built, it was actually the only crossing point by land.
1887, 1880, 1800.
More like
87 mil.
1961, the Interstate Bridge was replaced by the John A. Martin Bridge that we're going up making.
Lo hicieron 1800 y algo.
8,975 feet long is one of two bridges that cross the harbor now. With a turn height of 145 feet, this bridge is often referred to as the High Bridge, as it is tall enough to allow even the biggest of freighters to pass it. Right now, we are entering the St. Louis River section of the Twin Ports. Sitting there, it's actually become a nesting site for birds.
Allá vienen más
A lot of types of
freeways,
birds are using that island, including
puentes que
terns
están
and seagulls.
en medio
In fact,
del
the
agua.
terns being there actually make it a protected island, since terns only use 2 islands on Lake Superior, including this one. the
Bueno,
nest. So Dino is actually spending about 1.1 million.
aquí lo voy a dejar con
to
este
do
otro
an
video.
IRS.
Voy a ver si grabo más.
The nesting season runs from late May to late July.
Para que
Up to
sigamos
5,000
explorando el
individual
lago
birds go to
de
that island every year during that time.
Superior, lago Superior. Allá están haciendo todo el asfalto,
We get a lot of birds around here, including terns and seagulls, which we have actually 5 species of seagulls. We see a bunch of other birds like cormorants, as well as ducks, geese, swans, and herons, pelicans.
Bueno,
Sometimes they find a way
con
into the
eso
harbor,
lo
but they
dejo.
tend to hang out in the lake
Hasta
more
la
often than not.
próxima.
We also see a lot of different birds of prey, including bald eagles, ospreys, hawks, and even peregrine falcons.